Welcome back to the Niagara Sports Hub. I'm here with Tim Ward and Mike Fisher. How you guys doing this morning?
Outstanding, thank you.
JP, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fine. So last week I'm sitting in the stands of my son's basketball tournament, and one of the fathers in front of me, he's a big Dallas Cowboy fan. This is I forget what day it was, Sunday morning. And he turns, he said, "Yeah, I'm pretty confident Dallas is going to win." And I said that there's one wild card. He goes, "Oh, yeah, what's that?" I said, "Mike McCarthy."
Yeah.
I said, "Clock management and bonehead play calls." But, you know, I'm not certain he called that play, but at the end.
All right. Let me try this theory back on you. All right. Can't you say that about every weekend? Yeah. I'll tell you what's going to happen. Here's my prediction. Boy, either that quarterback or that coach is going to screw this up. And if it's a close game, I will automatically be right.
Yeah.
Right? If it's a blowout, I'll still be right, but nobody will be able to pinpoint. But I can guarantee you, if the Packers lose to San Francisco this weekend, it'll be because we will be able to on Monday say, well, that Aaron Rodgers and that Matt LaFleur. And
or a Mason Crosby missed wide right or something.
You can do the kicker. And then once we get done with that, then we'll go, and the general manager, the owner suck too. So I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying it's universal. Of course, in a close game, the team that loses will have made a mistake that could directly be pinned on decision-making. Therefore, yes, coach, quarterback, and you bet, kicker. It's kind of like, the Stephen A. Smith gimmick on ESPN, and I admire him for it. He's turned it into a $7 million a year trick, in addition to being, he's a very hard worker and clearly a very compelling personality. But his fake cowboy hatred thing is basically based on, I'm going to predict every year that the Cowboys won't win the Super Bowl. Well, guess what? I'm going to put $1 down on all 32 teams not winning a Super Bowl. And guess what? I'm going to make $31.
Yeah.
So it's kind of betting that the sun's going to come up tomorrow. There's a pretty good chance.
Okay, but having said that, what did you think of that last call, the draw play with 14 seconds left?
Yeah, certainly. First of all, just like in any game that we've ever played, if you play a 7-inning softball game, and you drop a fly ball in the 7th inning, you think that's what lost it for you, when in fact you're forgetting that you dropped a fly ball in the 3rd inning too.
Yeah, no, there were plenty of reasons why they lost that game, and we'll get into that in a second.
With 2 minutes and 53 seconds to go, they have the ball and 3 timeouts, and everybody forgets about that possession, and they blew that possession. Then got the ball back for their desperation situation, as you note. It's not like it hadn't been done before. The quarterback runs there. But if Dak Prescott slides 5 yards earlier, they saved themselves. They cost themselves 5 yards, which you're still throwing a desperation pass from the 26 or from the 31. What's the difference? And he gains 5 seconds. So the biggest problem with the play, it isn't that it's a bad call. It's that they feel like they've measured this down to the inch, and they're wrong. Because if they measured it down to the inch, they would have had enough time. The second aspect of this that's flawed, and we asked Mike McCarthy this in the Wednesday press conference. We must have asked it 8 different ways. And he kept saying, he kept kind of saying that the ref doesn't have to touch the ball for it to be centered.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just wrong.
Yeah.
And he knows he's wrong. We've seen plenty of teams do this where the wide receiver catches the ball, clock's ticking down. Wide receiver catches the ball, and he runs to the middle of the field and puts the ball down. And he's wasting his time. You need to throw it to the ref, because nothing happens until the ref gets there.
I understand, but in that replay, there was, the 65-year-old ref running behind the play. Why is that?
Okay. And that's the way the NFL is. And that's too bad. They probably should make it so any ref can touch it.
Right.
The closest ref can touch it. And then they just switch positions. Again, not to get too deep on this. Have you guys ever umpired baseball?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know the drill. You're the behind the plate ump, right? If there's a play at third base, the home plate ump goes and takes it. Then the base ump goes and takes home plate.
Yeah.
Why can't the NFL do the same thing? If a 65-year-old referee is 25 yards back there, he's not going to catch up with a sprinting Dak Prescott ever.
Right.
Why can't another ref center the ball and they just switch spots? Having said that, since that's not the way the NFL does it, the Cowboys need to give the ball to the referees. And Dak Prescott should have done a pop slide 5 yards sooner and turned around and threw it to the ref.
Yeah.
Thus putting the pressure on the ref to run with the ball, which would have caused him to look at the clock and say, oh, this is on me now. I'm going to have to give them a second. The Cowboys are complaining, like they always do, which is a dangerous mindset. And I said that to McCarthy on Wednesday. The Cowboys are complaining like, oh, the referee bumped into us and we bumped it. He bumped into you because you were in his way.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to set the ball for you, and your quarterback and your center are playing footsie with the ball. So this is not the referee's fault. There's a systemic problem with the way the league does its refereeing, but the Cowboys screwed this up. And for them to blame the referees after the game is an invitation to poisoning your mind as to the way the world works. Because if you really don't think any of these penalties, and the Cowboys led the NFL in penalties, and now they lead the postseason in penalties too. If you really don't think that that's your fault, then you'll never fix it, because you'll always be able to say, no, the traffic cop was picking on me, the teacher was picking on me, my boss was picking on me, and the referees are picking on me, and you'll never fix yourself.
Moving into next season, as we're now in the off season, the guys are off playing golf, the coaches are being interviewed for new jobs, management's looking at what they're doing with coaches and players. Does that mindset change? It obviously has to, but how does that mindset change moving into next year?
Yeah, this goes for any coach that's got a penalty problem. I think, first of all, you have to admit that a penalty problem is a discipline problem.
Yeah.
And we don't mean discipline like, don't get a DUI or don't, we're not talking about that kind of discipline. We're talking about a level of intensity that causes you to not false start. Pre-snap penalties are gigantically problematic here. The Randy Gregory series of plays where he's chasing the ball carrier and he decides to tackle the blocker.
Yeah, that was something.
That's like 7-year-olds. That's what 7-year-olds do. Well, they don't know what to do, so they just tackle the blocker. It was absurd. And so McCarthy's now got this problem. And he said, our number one offseason project is fixing penalties. What he didn't say is how.
Mm-hmm.
You can't cut guys. That's not how it works anymore in a salary cap era. You can't trade guys to Siberia. When we were kids, Green Bay in 1975 was not a good place to be. So we would, nor was Buffalo. So teams would say, I'll threaten to trade you to Green Bay. Well, now that doesn't work because everybody in football is a millionaire. He can take a private jet outside of Green Bay every day if he wants to. So that doesn't work. Michael Irvin says it's fear. You have to instill fear. And that's what Jimmy Johnson did here once upon a time. And he says Belichick coaches in a salary cap era, but he instills fear in his players. Don't make a mistake or else. Even though the or else is actually pretty vague, just saying it's like when you have a little kid. Don't misbehave or else. We hope we never get to what the or else is. Or else what? You're not going on the family ski trip? Really? We're going to script the whole family ski trip because the kid stole a cookie? So what is the or else? I don't know. But McCarthy needs to maybe either be more of a hard ass in this regard or have somebody on his staff who is. That's the only way you're going to fix this plague.
Well, you mentioned, or you made a reference to baseball earlier, and there was a player on the Chicago Cubs, Aramis Ramirez. Tim, do you remember this guy, third baseman on the Cubs? And he was a great player, but every time I watched him play, he would never do the fundamentals, like hit behind a runner, get a guy from first to third, bunt, all these things, hit a sacrifice fly. He was always trying to hit a home run, whatever, or pull the ball. And they said, oh, well, next year in training camp, they just have to go through the fundamentals and, teach. At this age and this, through all their training and all the peewee football, and baseball, all this stuff, they don't know all the fundamentals by now. I just don't buy that. So, you said Trevor Lawrence is tackling guys. He's got to know. Come on.
Randy Gregory. Yeah.
Randy Gregory. Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes there's a guy who's so athletically gifted that he slips through the cracks of fundamentals.
Yeah.
But what you're talking about really infuriates Joe Blows like us, who feel like if we ever got to step into the plate in a Major League Baseball game and hit a ground ball to the pitcher, we would run like our hair was on fire to first base. And so it frustrates us to watch guys who are more gifted than us go, no, I'm not going to waste my energy on sprinting to first base. No, I'm not going to go back up. I'm not going to be a pitcher who goes back up home plate. Too much work. I'm tired. Yeah, that very frustrating.
Tim, I was in one All-Star game in my baseball career, and I got one plate appearance. Can you guess what I did?
Struck out.
The opposite.
Home run. Grand slam.
No, I walked. 4 pitches I walked. So I don't know where that was.
So officially, that didn't even count as an at bat.
Didn't even count it.
Well, that's true.
Wow, you suck.
Mike, you mentioned Michael Irvin earlier, and I read a story that he would love to have either Belichick, Peyton, or Shanahan coach the Cowboys next year. We know that's not going to happen. What is going to happen with the coaching changes?
Jerry Jones has not yet gone public with his announcement that Mike McCarthy's staying, maybe because it's preposterous that he should have to, but he's the one that opens up this can of worms by not answering straight questions straight. Stephen Jones, the CEO, did come out and say absolutely, and I asked Mike McCarthy 2 times on Wednesday, and Mike McCarthy, he didn't say absolutely because I guess there are no absolutes. He certainly indicated that it's full speed ahead. The Sean Payton dream is real. He is close to the Jones family, and Sean Payton's close to them, and Sean Payton loves Dallas, and that I predict someday Sean Payton will work here. Maybe he'll be 90 years old and be a special consultant.
Yeah.
Michael Lombardi, the former NFL general manager, did a podcast in which he predicted it that hey, watch out for this, but then he talked about how Sean Payton has 1 year left on his contract. Well, see, and again, Michael Lombardi was an NFL general manager, so I have a great deal of respect for him. My understanding is Sean Payton's contract in New Orleans goes through 2026. So the first thing we got to do when we do our speculation, I don't mind opinions, but they have to be fact-based. And if you're basing your opinion on Sean Payton leaving on the idea that, well, he's leaving anyway next year, well, I think you're wrong. Could you trade for Sean Payton? Yeah, I mean, you want to give up first-round draft picks for a coach? When you just hired this coach, he just got here, Mike McCarthy. And how much did he? And I know we pick on him, but they did go 12-5, right? If the Bears coach goes 12-5 next year, are you firing him?
Oh
no, they're making a statue. Are you kidding?
Right. So I think we have to mix some realism into the fantasy. My line is yes, if Sean Payton is ever available, if Bill Belichick's ever available, or if the ghost of Tom Landry wants a job, then they should fire Mike McCarthy. But otherwise, the idea that Dan Quinn's better than Mike McCarthy, is he? They don't think so in Atlanta.
Well, one thing is, and maybe you can get a feel for this, how do the players feel about Mike McCarthy?
I think there's a comfort level there, and maybe to the point where it's too comfortable.
Okay.
Now, we haven't really had a chance to survey, but again, it's a weird deal because is Dak Prescott supposed to come out and voice support for a coach?
Yeah.
Dak Prescott's probably going, what do you mean? We're not firing him. Why would I have to make a statement about it? He's my coach, and he's just completed the second year of a 5-year contract. But this is Jerry created. There is a part of me that thinks Jerry kind of thinks it's fun.
Yeah.
It also occurs to me that Jerry might want Mike McCarthy to squirm a little bit. That's Jerry's version of fear factor. I'm not going to come out and say everything's great after we just got upset at home by the 49ers in a game in which we played poorly, because as of this moment, in my head, things aren't great. The front office did its job. We gave you the players that you should be a Super Bowl contender, and he's not wrong there either.
Look, I think Dan Quinn's gone. I mean, I'm betting a lot of house money on Dan Quinn being gone. He probably to Denver or something.
Yes.
Who's going to fill that void at defense? I mean, you've got a player in Micah Parsons who loves Dan Quinn. Who's going to fill that void?
Yeah, Micah Parsons is a fan of Dan Quinn. Everybody's a fan of Dan Quinn. Every player's ever played for him. Falcons players swear by him. Seattle players swear by him. They've got George Edwards, who you guys remember, the former Vikings defensive coordinator on this staff, highly respected in the building. There's a guy named Joe Witt Jr. who's worked for McCarthy and McCarthy and Quinn. Now, if Quinn goes somewhere, maybe he wants to take Joe Witt with him.
Yeah.
Joe Witt has also gotten a call from Seattle about interviewing for the defensive coordinator job there. So the Cowboys need to be prepared to lose Quinn and conceivably Witt. And
could they bring on somebody like Zimmerman?
And then you call Mike Zimmer.
Or Mike Zimmer?
The former Vikings head coach, of course, who is a friend of my program. And he's close to the Joneses, too, and understands where all the bodies are buried here at the Star. Mike Zimmer he's laying low right now. You'll notice some of these guys are taking, world tours in limousines and private jets. Mike Zimmer's laying low right now. That's kind of his style here. But Zimmer, George Edwards, and Witt are three good names in Dallas for defensive coordinator.
JP, question for you. Could you see Mike Zimmer sitting in that chair that Mike Fisher is now sitting in right now?
Of course. You mean both of them together? Or?
Not together.
Yeah,
I'm just
on my lap.
Yeah, no, I get the impression that's the kind of guy Mike Zimmer is.
He embraced Texas when he was here. And his son went to college in San Antonio. He was very much part of the fabric of the community here. And so that could work again. There's no wrong choice between those three guys. If you want continuity on the staff, if you want to continue what Dan Quinn's done, maybe you elevate one of his assistants. But Mike Zimmer is a high-quality person and coach, obviously.
Tim, bold prediction. I don't think Dan Quinn goes anywhere. You said Denver.
That is bold.
Denver just got rid of a defensive guy, Vic Fangio, who was a player's coach, and I think that's like the same guy.
There's people in Denver that would disagree with what you're saying, but the framework of what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, respected guy, player's coach, kind of a fun, hard ass, and he's a defensive coordinator. Denver's connection with him is real.
Yeah.
He did a lengthy interview here in DFW. The Broncos came here and brought the plane down here and sat down with him, and their general manager is close with Quinn. So that's real.
Okay.
While you're right about convention, you usually don't replace a fired former defensive coordinator with another defensive coordinator. Maybe you're smarter to think out of the box.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't do what is always conventional. What if we just hire the best guy who fits best? And I think in Denver, that can be Dan Quinn. Yeah. Kellen Moore obviously interviewed for that job as well. And those two guys continue to interview this week.
I just see Dan Quinn up in the box in his sweat outfit, during the Cowboys. I mean, he's got that comfort level there. Yeah. I don't know. I think he stays. That's just my opinion.
The Cowboys hope you're right. And Cowboy fans definitely, they fell in love with him. I just try to caution, and they think I'm trying to be a contrarian here. I'm really not. 1 year they're building they're naming a street after Mike McCarthy, and the next year they're telling him, "Hey, see that street? Hit the road." So
too much money.
I just think it's
too much money involved here. You've got to go be a head coach somewhere.
Right, I agree with that. But the falling in and out of love with coaches based on what we see on TV, I think we probably need to be a little careful there.
Yeah.
Hey, before we
did Dan Quinn make Parsons or Parsons make Dan Quinn? I mean, that's what this comes down to in my eyes.
Well, that was a good marriage. Had Micah Parsons gone to a team where they just said, "Hey, you're a middle linebacker, go be great," he would be great, but he'd just be a middle linebacker. And Dan Quinn unleashed some things in Micah Parsons based on his versatility and athleticism that, not every coach would have done. There's other guys here that had success. Curse, the 6'4" safety, he'd never done anything like he did here. There's a bunch of guys that reached another level because Dan Quinn was here. And that's what he does. And that's what a good coach does.
Last question I've got, thinking about the Dallas Cowboys from this year going into next year. What happens with Zeke? Was it just that he was hurt all year? Or as a running back in the NFL, we see they get a couple of really good years and it's all downhill from there?
It's been 6 years. And so the wear and tear is a thing. There's a great misunderstanding about his knee injury. I think we talked on this show a month ago that he has ligament damage in his knee. And I'm not trying to downplay it, but when we say torn knee, that creates an impression that's not true. I've actually seen people accuse the Cowboys of medical malpractice. And I don't know if you're familiar with the guy with the big white Stetson on the sideline. That's Dr. Dan Cooper. I don't know if you know, that's the Dr. Dan Cooper. he helped invent some of modern medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And he just happens to work in Dallas and be in the Cowboys' employ. If you get a surgery, there's like 5 guys in America that you hope do your surgery, and he's one of the 5 guys in America. Seriously. So to accuse Dr. Dan Cooper of putting Ezekiel Elliott in medical harm's way is, and bloggers are doing this, completely irresponsible. Their belief was there was no additional damage that was going to be done, that there's no surgery that's necessary, that we get to the offseason and he rests it, and that's that. It's a ligament in the back of his knee, the PCL, and it's major enough to cause him discomfort and to slow him down, but not major enough that they're amputating his leg, and not major enough that people should be accusing the Cowboys of not knowing what they're doing. And then one more wrinkle here. The Cowboys have an escape hatch in his contract. Everybody's saying, cut Zeke, he sucks. You can't. Next spring, but not this spring. Now you can have Tony Pollard become the lead running back and Ezekiel Elliott be the supplemental running back. And he's, that'd be an expensive supplemental running back, but if that makes the football team better, fine. But listen, you dear listener, when you're out there and you're seeing these headlines, they should cut Zeke, buyer beware. 99% of the blogosphere doesn't have any idea what it's talking about, has never stepped foot in a locker room, wouldn't know if a football is stuffed or blown up. Be careful how you make your judgments. I say this about, and maybe I'm a little too deferential, I say this about my plumber. If I call a plumber and say, hey, my ball cock is broken, I don't mean to offend anybody about my ball cock, but and he says, okay, well, here's the fix. Do I argue with my plumber? Tell him, well, no, let me tell you what we should. I don't argue with my plumber. I don't argue with my doctor. And if I'm sitting in a room with an NFL scout, an NFL player, NFL coach, NFL executive, I do more listening than talking. And maybe more of us in my profession should borrow that concept.
That's what I was going to ask.
The whole ball cock thing threw you off, didn't it, John?
I'm sorry I threw you for a plumbing loop.
No. Before we move on to the other games in the NFL, we know that you cover the Cowboys. Cowboys a big part of what you do. What do you do now that the season's over? What do you switch, or what do you kind of focus on now?
Man, that is a great question. When we do our podcast on the Fish Report, our broadcast on YouTube, I remind people, it's just starting.
Yeah.
NFL season's just starting, because now there's the coaching carousel, there's free agency, there's trades, there's the draft. Mm-hmm. And so Marcia and I do sit around saying, okay, now what's the best time of year to actually take a week of vacation?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, none of it really. I mean, I'm sorry, honey. Because there's not much downtime, and that's fine by me. So there's really 2 seasons in the NFL, and 3 if you count fantasy football, because that's a season all unto itself.
Yeah. I would think that now that your games are over in Dallas, the actual games are done for you. It's all guessing games now.
Yeah, you certainly see a lot of stories saying top 5 wide receivers the Falcons could sign, and when you write those stories, you try to make sure that you've got somebody, in the building who's actually telling you, yeah, we like that guy. You hate that it's a complete guessing game. Let's call it an educated guessing game. How about that?
It's a fantasy football game is what it becomes, actually.
There you go. And you try to bring your expertise to it. But, what we certainly do with the Cowboys and try to do with the NFL is, I'll try not to be writing, here's the top 5 guys that the Cowboys should get if they're not actually guys that the Cowboys think they should get. I try not to just pull that out of my wallet.
We'll see what Skip Bayless is up to. Maybe you guys could get together.
Well, we weren't going to bring Skip Bayless up, John. We may see Mike at a Mavs game, though, here and there.
Yes. And we cover the Mavericks on DallasBasketball.com and have for 22 years. So we're all over that. But yeah, it's not quite as go. I can sit in my big chair and get a lot of work done from there, but there's still plenty of work done to be done. Yes.
Well, one of the reasons I mentioned that is because the next time we'll be on together will be the Friday before the Super Bowl. Is that right, Tim?
That is correct. JP, we've got Bengals, Titans, 49ers, Packers, Rams, Buccaneers, Bills, and Chiefs. Which game do you like, John?
Which do I like?
Yeah, which one are you not going to miss?
Probably San Francisco, Green Bay. But I've said this from the beginning of the year with Aaron Rodgers with his thing. Will he sign? Will he show up to camp? Will he do this with his COVID protocol stuff? I think the NFL is laying the groundwork for the Packers to get to the Super Bowl any way they can. And once they get to the Super Bowl, then the Green Bay Packers are on their own.
What are you saying? The fix is in?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. But
oh, JP. Come on. You're better. You're smarter than that.
Okay, Tim, watch it. Watch it. And then I predict, listen, this is my prediction. Tom Brady goes into Lambeau Field. You remember the last year's game where Tom Brady ripped them apart, and it's going to come down to the last play. Aaron Rodgers touchdown, the last drive of the game. Somehow the Packers pull it out.
I hear you saying that the Buccaneers are going to beat my Rams, which I expect to happen as well. But look, I think the 49ers have a puncher's chance in Green Bay. I saw what they did last week. I think 49ers are just on a roll right now. I don't expect them to beat Green Bay, but I think it's going to be a hell of a game.
Well, you know who looked good? I mean, the Rams actually looked great. Kyler Murray didn't get to sleep the night before, but he just looked horrible. Horrible.
Well, we'll see. And I think the Bills-Chiefs game could be a decent game. But, Bengals at Titans, I expect Titans to run all over Bengals. But who knows? Joe Burrow's shown me a lot of mocks.
If Derrick Henry's really playing like Derrick Henry in that game, not only will he be effective for the Titans, but they will be sky high to have him back.
Oh, yeah.
What an emotional boost that'll be if he actually limps out there and produces for them. I think that can be a Tennessee advantage. I refuse to let the fixes in comments just fly by. You know that. don't feed that concept to the audience. There's enough people that actually take that seriously. Could you imagine the risk? The risk reward for the fix being in isn't there, because if anybody ever found out, a zillion-dollar industry would go right down the toilet.
Yep.
So what bet would be big enough? What gambling bet would be big enough, or what TV revenue would be big enough to get the fix that would allow you to justify losing the entire league? Because that's what would happen.
Yeah.
No, I know. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm saying that they're going to get to the Super Bowl, and then all bets are off. That's just I've watched the Packers for so long, and that's what happens.
Mike, do you see any upsets this weekend?
I think the Bills play offense and defense, and what we've seen from the Chiefs so most of this year is they don't really play defense. So I wonder if this isn't the Bills' time. They've built a roster that's for this. Bad weather in Kansas City should not trouble them, and they have a better chance of stopping the Chiefs' offense than the Chiefs' defense does of having the Bills' offense. So I think that's a highlighted game, a lot of fun, and a chance for the Bills to jump up on what obviously has been an almost dynastic. I mean, three years of true contention and 2 Super Bowls, 4 years of true contention. That's a dynasty in the NFL now. And that's where Kansas City's been. It might be Buffalo's turn.
So, this show is about all my unpopular opinions. So I'm going to give you another one. All these teams that, win their division have the right and, they deserve to get home field advantage.
Right.
And, Green Bay, for example, I keep talking about them. They get the home field advantage. It's supposed to be like 8 degrees Saturday night at game time. And you know what that equates to? Boring football for me. I just don't like cold weather games. It just takes an element of something out of the game. What do you think about that, Tim? And
it does seem like it slows everything down. I think it's fine to have that be. I mean, obviously it is what it is, but to every once in a while have the accent of that thrown into it. It's more fair if we play in a dome where one team doesn't have. First of all, everybody knows this. It's just like a muddy track in horse racing.
Yep.
The more muddy a track, the better a chance of a bad horse finishing first is. Same thing in football. The muddier things are, the less predictable things are. Muddy, foggy, rainy. And so a guy that wouldn't normally fumble the ball fumbles the ball in the rain. And I don't like that. But I like that when teams have a chance at that advantage, they take advantage of it, which is why as a kid growing up in Minnesota, it still saddens me that the Vikings don't play outside. That was an advantage for Minnesota.
Yeah, growing up, I mean, I remember some of the cold games. I mean, you refer back to the 6 games in the '60s where you see Butkus playing in the snow in Chicago, or the Packers playing in Super Bowls, or Ken Anderson in Cincinnati playing in a 20 below zero game in playoffs. But we always remember those games that played in extreme cold.
Sure.
When's the last time you remember what game was the hottest game ever played? I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, there's some steamy ones, but no, you don't remember that as being the big issue. And of course, in the South and the Southwest, where it gets steamy, Dallas is indoors, Atlanta's indoors. So increasingly, there's a lid on that place.
I'm just saying it's not as a compelling game offensively when you're just.
Don't disagree with that.
If you put them on a neutral site and you're in a dome, I think you're going to have high scores. And this game Saturday night could be, 17-6. It's not overly exciting.
I like it when the players and the coaches determine the game, not the referees and the weather. How about that?
Yeah, yes. It's a good way to say it. What else you got, Tim?
Well, I was just going to say, we've got next podcast with Mike will be the Friday before the Super Bowl. We've got a special guest next week. JP and I are interviewing Ben Rhodes, the NASCAR truck champion last year. So we're going to talk to Ben for a few minutes and get some thoughts and ideas of what's coming up in NASCAR this year. Looking forward to that. As a track head myself, I'm kind of excited for that one. JP, what's on your schedule over the next week?
I'm going ice fishing this weekend, matter of fact. So going up to Wisconsin.
Sounds great. Mike's going to play
fishing. Are you really?
Ice fishing.
Yeah.
Wow.
You want to come up? Come on.
I'm tempted. I never did it. I've never done it in my life. I'm tempted.
Come up. Actually, we're going in February 18th. We're going to Sturgeon Bay, just outside of Green Bay on Lake Michigan. And
put me down on your maybe future list. That sounds fun.
And you know what? It'll be like 3 days after the Packers win the Super Bowl, so they'll have the the parade going on at that time. So I'll be up there at the same time. The ice fishing up in Sturgeon Bay is, you're in a heated shack basically. So you have your jacket off. You're catching fish. You're telling stories.
Warm in there.
Yeah, you're drinking, and it's fun.
But it's not too warm as to melt the ice.
No, but
you want it that warm.
It is unnerving when you're in there and you hear the crack, it goes all the way across the lake. You get,
no doubt.
And then you're like, whoa, maybe we shouldn't be out here. So anyway.
Well, once again, thanks to Niagara for helping sponsor this podcast. We enjoy everything about Niagara. They are good friends to us, and we certainly thank them for all their help. Mike, you have a wonderful off week. If you play any golf or anything, enjoy it. I'm sure you'll be watching some football this weekend, but we look forward to talking the Friday before Super Bowl.
We'll do it. Thanks, boys.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
I appreciate it.